a couple weeks ago, somebody was talking about doing some piercing, and then just the discussion always comes up about, well, how do you clean that up? And then it reminded me that I've had some stuff that I used over the years, and I just want to share that what's available for the guys that don't know. And this is kind of new. It's been out a couple of years, but you
Pull
go
it
on
back closer to your face so we can see more of it. There, good.
you can go on Amazon. This is called sanding twigs. There's about 7 colors, and all it is they take that foam board and take the colors, and they cut it in these little strips like a twig. So they're throwaway. They bend, so you can bend it and get down in places. So you don't have
Brace of both sides on that, or just one?
both sides on this. Let me get this up here.
Cool.
And this has 7 colors. So it's pretty cheap. It's a good way to go. I got there because a number of years ago, we didn't get together like this, obviously, and I needed to do some repairs on some work. And you know that you go out and you look at the wood turning stuff, and you always get wood turning answers. So what I did is I contacted a company that does musical instrument repair, and they fixed violins. And the guy gave me a little lesson on you know, they may get an instrument in where the surface has been dinged a little bit, and they headed me to micromesh. Well, if you're not familiar with micromesh, it has a ton of colors, and it gets to where you can sand to the point where it's like, I mean, you can sand it and polish it. You don't see any marks. It's really nice to work with. But the difference that they make is they make a very similar product, and this is more foamy. Get up here. Bendable, but you can get this down in places. Now the thing about this is the cost on this is a little bit more because one thing that they have is they have a lot of colors when you buy a pack of it. It lasts, you can wash it, but what it is putting sandpaper around the dowel and doing some of this stuff. That's fine for some stuff, but if you're doing a real fine piece, you can't just go in if it's already been finished like an instrument surface. You got to get in there and finish it like they finished it the first time. And then what I find is really good is at the our symposium, there's a guy that shows up, if you remember, back in the corner, that sells carving stuff. He sells these. These are sanding sticks, and these are a little bit stiffer, but they come in grits. Where the heck are we here? So you can go and you can get these in grits. This is a 240. So for a couple dollars, you can get a whole bunch of these. And one thing about these is they're shaped. They come to a point. And what happens is you can also cut these. These are just foam. One side of this is a little foamier than the other side. But what I find is that, you know, you see a lot of guys go, I wrap, you know, sandpaper around this and I sand. And what that does, it leaves marks all over the place. And when you get down to this, so you can have some of these laying around, you can reach in, and like this has got a nice point on it. And some of this stuff goes right up to finish grade. So, and these bend too.
Ray, the other ones that you said had multiple colors, does that mean they have multiple grits as well?
Multiple grits. They have,
Okay.
This is,
Yep.
that's the grits that's available with micromesh. And micromesh has, you can get sheets, you can get little squares, you can get the sanding sticks. Okay, that's it.
All right. More questions for Ray?
Those
I'd
things
like
last
to,
a long, long time because you can wet sand with them. They last a long, long time, so
Yeah,
they're
they do.
inexpensive.
If I'd like to say, if you have access to both sides of the pierced thing, like an open bowl or something, where you can have one hand inside it, the sanding cord, typically it's about 3/32 to an 1/8 inch in diameter, and it's grit all the way around. You have to pull it from both ends back and forth, kind of like a hacksaw. But it is very flexible, so you do have to keep it under tension. And I think it's only available as fine as maybe 280. Amazon carries it.
It's called sanding cord. Yeah?
Yes, I
Okay.
have it in like 3 grits, and it is not durable if you're putting it, like if you're bearing down and you're trying to remove a lot of material. But for cleaning up piercings, if you get the finest grit, it'll last a while. But it's not a durable grit, but it does have it's grit all the way around and easily controlled.
Okay.
I got a question about the micro mesh. I like to use it dry, but a lot of people like to use it wet. What's everybody think about that?
I think it get better. The thing with wet, it makes a slurry. So when you get it wet, now you're taking the sanding material and it's lubricated. So you may find the finish is a little bit nicer. On acrylic, it's the only way to go is to wet it.
Wet with water or wet with finished material?
You can wet it with water.
I think by the time you get to the higher grits, that I really don't see a need for having the water. I don't know. I've been having pretty good luck without it. It's dry.
Try it. One of the things to try is take a light, set a light off to the side so you get a reflection, and sand half of it. And what you'll see is where you sand to, you'll always see a line when you sand. And you'll see that when it's really good, what you'll get is when you get the reflection of the light, if it's not really good, it looks kind of broken up. And a lot of people think, well, I see the reflection of light, that's pretty good. When you get it good, reflection of light makes a straight line on your surface. And you may not have done anything more than put a couple drops on, but you'll see the difference.
Okay, good advice. I always put polish on after, especially with acrylic. So
Yeah,
maybe let's see
I
that.
do that with acrylic too, but what happens is, when you start, the thing about polish, you put polish on, polish comes off. So if you start at the point where this is really cool and then protect it with the polish, you're taking it, when you put the polish on, you're taking it up to another level. And put a magnifying glass on it and it'll convince you.
Okay.
I've used the micro mesh occasionally. I always use it dry and only on wood, but on small bowls that are too hard to buff the inside with a bowl buff, I've found, like a ring bowl, something up to maybe 4 inches or so. You go through those grits literally just by wiping the inside once with each grit. It's so fast. It's like you wipe it around, get the next one, wipe it around, and when you finish, you could have the same surface you'd get by buffing it on the Beal system up to white diamond.
You guys are bringing up an interesting point about this use of water or not water, or dry sanding or wet sanding. My question is, what's the role of the water itself? I mean, does it make a slurry? Or does it just carry the dust away? Or is it better for, or like a polish? Because if it's water you're talking about, you could actually use any lubricant you wanted, to be honest.
Well, you can, but when you're using a micro mesh, one thing about micro mesh, it's reusable. So if you're using like on acrylic and you bring up a slurry, you can take your micro mesh when you're done and wash it off. Because what that'll do is, say you're doing it on acrylic with water, that some of that stuff will dry. You can wipe that with a damp cloth to clean it off, and then when you're done, you can just wash your micro mesh and wash off your acrylic, and you've got a really nice finish.
So a fine slurry would not be unlike, the old practice of just taking some shavings as your final polish. some of the shavings from your turning and using that as the final polish on the sanding. So what you're really doing is just using the wood to polish itself. Is that a fair?
No, I don't think it's quite the
Comment
same
there. I
thing.
don't know the answer.
I know when you bring up the shavings and stuff like that, a lot of times that's done to burnish it because you're using the same material that's been cut. And I just have to talk for the best finish. I've used a micro mesh on the acrylic, and I found nothing else like it. So,
If
Okay.
you were in raw wood, I mean, just fresh turned wood, couldn't you use oil? Since you're going, if you want to put oil on like Mahoney's, couldn't you use micro mesh and oil, and wouldn't it achieve two purposes? Put
Yeah.
oil in the wood and finish out the surface nicely.
It would ruin your micro mesh, so it's be an expensive process.
No,
Yeah.
I would do that with Abranet.
Okay, well then maybe I'm not referring to the right product.
I do it either with Abranet or Scotch-Brite, and
Right.
and
That's what I'm thinking of, John.
yeah,
Not
you're making a slurry of whatever you're taking off the wood and the oil, and presumably it's going into the pores and cracks in the wood. I used to believe that was all true. I'm not sure it is, but it's a good place to begin, I think.
I think if you used Abralon and use the pads, if you want to do that, use the pads and rather than Abranet.
What would be the difference, Ray?
Well, the Abranet has holes in it.
Yeah.
So what it does is it carries everything in the what doesn't fall off, it's still carrying around. And then when you use the Abralon, it's totally foam backed, and you're not carrying all that junk around.
Okay.
Because Abranet was originally, the whole idea of the Abranet was for stuff like green wood loves Abranet. But once you go over the dry stuff and then run Abralon, it works. I think it works better.
Okay. I usually stop with Abranet and I'm done, but I'm not after the kind of high polish that you achieve either. I might like to be able to do that someday.
One of the things about micro mesh, if you're looking for an actual glass smooth finish, and with any sandpaper, wipe down your object between grits,
Oh, you have to do that.
Yeah.
because nothing is worse than getting one particle of 80 grit when you're sanding 400. Excuse me, when you're sanding 400 grit.
What do you use to do that?
I did, and I
No. What do you use? I use a shop towel, one of those cheapo shop towels comes out of a box, non-woven.
Yeah, I
shop
use a
towel.
little bit of either, if it's wood, I use DNA to wipe the piece down, and the sandpaper too, unless I'm going to throw the sandpaper away. And if it's acrylic, then I use water,
Okay.
and
One
I
of the-
wipe the micro mesh.
One of the things I've used is like Mike had mentioned for doing a bowl where you can't get a buff inside is a product from Merca. It's called Merlon Total. And it's a mesh, a non-woven mesh, and it comes in, I've got fine and very fine. And after I'm done with my sandpaper, I use this Merlon Total and just bunch it up and stuff it in there, and it polishes the wood itself really, really nicely. It lasts a long time too. But it's a non-woven mesh, and it's I watched it at a symposium where a guy was doing a demonstration, and he said he only ever sands up to 320 and switches to Merlon Total, and he ends up with about a 1,000 grit finish on wood, and it makes the plain wood looks really, really nice.
Huh. Okay. Good topic. Anybody else?
Sometime it would be nice to have a whole session related to how you go to your final finish. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of ideas here.
Yeah, it's good.
Which ones work for what is the question. So,
Well, you have to try it and find out.
yeah, I only have
comes
so
down
much
to-
time.
Okay, thank you very much all on that one. That's a good topic.
This is a test piece I did, and you can see there's some big holes in there, and I've made them black. When I first turned this, you could see right through it, and I know inside that there's a big cavity. So what that black is polyamide. Polyamide is a lot harder version of hot glue. So you can turn it, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. So you can see right through it here.
Right.
And it's pretty easy to just glue that in there, fill it up, and then turn it smooth.
How do you
And this
melt
is
it?
hard. It's hard to get your thumbnail in there.
How do you melt it?
Hot glue gun, I've got a 100-watt one. And this is the usual 10 millimeter, 11 millimeter sticks. And those are the colors you can get. One outfit in the States started selling it years ago, and I found this on AliExpress. But lots of places are selling this polyamide hot melt glue. So that's it's a different option instead of, obviously you can't CA this one. And it would be hard to epoxy this one because there's a huge cavity. You can see right through this thing. But when you turn it, it's smooth. I just rough turned this, but you can polish it. You can do all kinds of things to it.
Millie putt would be my go-to for that, but I love your idea, except now I have to buy another hot glue gun.
Yeah. So that's just a quick suggestion. It's not for everybody, but for some of those big holes, might be an idea.
My question was, how long do you guys or you ladies let lacquer cure before you Beal buff it? You know what I mean by Beal buffing. That's my term for the triple E, et cetera, and the white diamond and all that. I've been having, I had resisted lacquer, and I'm about to do what John did, go to Osmo, because I'm getting sick and tired of the lacquer issue. I have to put up the bin to suck the air out and turn on the big air thing and then curing it. I was away for a vacation for almost a week, and I had some sitting here, and I came back, sand a little bit, and I still had trouble with it. I don't know. Maybe it's a lacquer I'm using, but so.
I think it could be. I went over to Osmo for all those reasons. I find Osmo a really good. I like to, like most of you guys, I like to finish as I go. I make complicated little things, but as I finish a surface and have it available on the lathe sanded, I finish it right there with Osmo, and I just slop some on and take a walk around the shop for about 2 minutes and wipe off any wet liquid and then turn the lathe on to a fairly high speed and let it run on a paper towel till the towel gets hot, and that seems to set the Osmo, and off I go to the next surface. It works pretty well.
You don't buff it, John, with a
Not at
buffing
that
wheel
point.
or
I may never
something.
buff it. What I usually do after that is apply more wipe on Osmo after I've taken the whole piece off the lathe.
I have either choice to go back to oil for everything, like I used to always do Mahoney's walnut oil, or go to Osmo. You guys have been strong advocates for it, and
I like Osmo better than any other finish I've ever used, and I've used a lot of them. I was for a long time a Waterlocks fan, and before that Watco and Watco Danish oil and Watco antique oil, the finish that Mike uses, which are all poly varnishes. And I like a poly varnish finish a lot of the time, but I don't want to wait for it to dry. Osmo, I don't have to wait for it to dry. I could just carry right on turning.
Which Osmo do you use?
Osmo Top Oil is my favorite, but I did a bunch of tests with Pollux Satin and Pollux Gloss and Osmo Top Oil, and I really have to squint hard to tell the difference. The other Osmo I keep around is there's a thin version of Osmo, and I use that on Cocobolo and any other oily woods. It cuts through the oil. But Top Oil is the most convenient one. It's the one that's formulated for U.S. food safe regulations. The others are a little different.
One of the things I've tried, what you're talking, your question, John, is about, or Jim, about leaving a lacquer until it's dry enough. And I found that with the BL polishing system, you can have a completely dry lacquer, and it will still, the polishing system will still take the lacquer off. So unless you have a very thin coat of lacquer, the BL system will just take everything off, and you'll end up with almost back to bare wood anyway. So I think that if you're going to do that, it's probably the best thing you can do is just put a primer on just to cover up, to help seal it. Because again, the problem with the BL system, for example, with walnut, the white goes into the pores, and therefore you end up with this speckled look. So somehow filling the pores before you polish it with the BL system is the best thing, but don't overdo the lacquer.
Well, since I went over to Osmo, I almost never use the BL system, or if I do, I might just use a quick hit on white diamond and a little carnauba wax, but I often just don't use it at all. And I like what Dawn does. What I really need is a fourth wheel, a dry wheel. I think that would be the way to buff up the Osmo.
And I discovered that I use that after white diamond, and then I let it alone. I don't put wax on it. I did have a can of the the water-based finish that Toby uses. But when I said, I'm going to give this a try. But when I went to take the cap off, it snapped off the spray thing. You can't win. So
What I used to do with lacquer is brush it on a piece of the lathe, and again let it dry for a little bit, and then run the lathe up and run it hard to try and set it. But it doesn't behave the same as it's not as nice as the Osmo.
Hey Jim, can I make a comment?
Lacquer? What kind of lacquer do you use?
Watco.
I was using the last bit I was using. The last can was Marker's Choice or whatever is considered the best lacquer. I had used Minwax and Watco in the past, and I was thinking about going back to it, but I think I'm just going to ditch all lacquer.
Well, I've used Deft. I like Deft. I've all used to use Deft a lot, and Deft is probably a pretty nice one to use also. But I can't think of anywhere where I wouldn't use Osmo now.
Well, Deft is I think it's a nitrocellulose. When I've sprayed a lot of lacquer, and the nitrocellulose is that's old school. That's Gibson guitar. That's
right.
I never start buffing it before 30 days. I've gone as long as 6 months sometimes, but
you're absolutely
you gotta let it dry. You gotta let it set. You gotta let it get hard, and then on your wheels, your BL system, don't load up the first one, the brown Tripoli. You load that up with a lot of abrasive, you'll cut right through the lacquer with any kind of pressure at all. So you really have to be careful.
Guilty as charged. I loaded it up too much and I used too much pressure. Boy, it was stripping it right off. So
yeah,
I thought that Marker's Choice or whatever, I think it's Maker's Choice, was that same type of lacquer. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Cellulose or whatever you call it. So.
Nitrocellulose is older lacquer. I don't know the current lacquer formulations. And I think what Toby uses is a rattle can lacquer or acrylic. I'm not sure which, Toby.
It's acrylic. It's a water-based acrylic. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if Toby's on. He can verify it.
He's right here.
Yeah, it's not water-based. I don't know no, I don't know what the formula is, but
what's
just Krylon triple thick clear coating.
Triple thick. All right, and then I'm not thinking of the same thing.
You don't then use the BL system or anything else to smooth that out. You just leave it with whatever orange peel shows up.
Most of the time I just leave it. Sometimes I do buff it, especially if there's a little, if it gets a little scratch on it or something, I'll buff it out. And I actually, when I buff, I put my wheel on, while it's on the lathe, I put it about anywhere between 600 and 900 RPMs. I don't go real fast. And then just a quick swipe everywhere. You don't hold it on there long, or like you say, it'll burn through.
It builds up heat real fast. I noticed. I started detecting. I started doing research. And I said, okay, I'm too aggressive. It's heating up. And so yeah, I started doing different. Well, Jim, are you bringing it in the house to cure after it's dried initially? Your shop is not really heated, is it? It's sitting. I bring them in right after I'm done spraying them and drying enough to touch dry. I bring them in. They sit in my office right next to the vent that's keeping my room warm. Not that it's getting hot, but it sits there.
Well, I think the part of it, what goes on here, I mean, I just noticed on that piece, you're after a high shine, and Toby goes for a high shine. I don't want a high shine. I want a matte finish. I just want to bring up the color of the wood and protect it, but I don't, and make it cleanable. But the high shine's the last thing I want.
You know why? John, I was exactly with you. I did not want high shine, but Toby started me chasing down this dyeing of wood. And man, the shine really makes that work.
It does. I agree.
Does. If you dye the wood, the shine is really important.
I agree.
And so I went to lacquer, but
if you're selling work, the shine is important too. The people pick up shiny things like octopuses.
On the left-hand side, you can see the wheat pot as I turned it, and it looked a bit dull. So I decided to stain it with blue spirit stain. And then I put some matte lacquer from a spray can over it and showed it to the others. And they said, well, you should have used gloss lacquer that gives it some more depth, and the stain or the colored wood will look better. So I tried that. That's the matte from the other side with the matte stain, the wheat pot from the other side with the matte stain that way. And that's with the gloss lacquer on it.
Which did you like, Kai?
I think I like the gloss version better. The only problem for me is to use the lacquer from the spray lacquer from a rattle can correctly. So with the matte version, you don't realize any inconsistencies in the lacquer surface. So in some places there's a thicker layer of lacquer, in other places it is thinner, and it's a little bit of a kind of orange peel effect or something on the top, but you don't see it as the surface is matte. When I put the first layer of gloss on it, there was an orange peel effect, which I didn't like. So I put on a second layer, but the orange peel effect stayed. I just made it thicker, the lacquer. And at that point, I didn't want to sand it because the lacquer had only dried for maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And I thought when I sand it now, might be smearing it, or it won't look better, but even worse. So I put on another layer of lacquer, and the effect wasn't what I wanted to have. So in the end, I left it overnight, sanded it from 600 grit to 1200 grit, and then the surface was a little bit matte. And then I put microcrystalline wax on it, which is kind of a shoe polish for wood turners, I guess. It smells like shoe polish, and it's a wax thing. Then I got this nice gloss effect, and I think that's the way I will leave it now. I can show you the orange peel effect on the foot here, which I didn't sand and put something on it. So you can see the layer of lacquer is really inconsistent, and it doesn't look nice and smooth.
Do you think that's a matter of your technique, or is the surface contaminated, or is the spray can not up to the task? What do you think it is?
I discussed that with some other woodturners yesterday, and there might have been several reasons. For one thing, the lacquer was a few years old, so it wasn't a fresh spray can. Then I used it outside when it was quite warm, or hot. So they said it might have happened that the part of the lacquer already dried in the air before it hit the wood.
Yep.
So it
Yep.
looked inconsistent. And then if you want to have a coat, or an even coat, it needs to run a little bit on the surface so that the places where you got a little bit less are covered. But mine didn't run anymore because it was too hot. And also it was a little bit windy, which didn't help. So there might have been different reasons why I didn't get it right.
And was it real humid where you are? Because I when I spray lacquer outside, I don't like humidity at all.
Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't really humid. It was warm and windy, but not humid. But yeah, what is your experience in spraying lacquer? What should I look out for, or what shouldn't I do, or what is the best procedure in achieving a nice surface?
I got a question for you, Kai. When you were saying that the one can of lacquer was old, was both cans of lacquer the same age, or were they from two different eras? Because chemistry in lacquer changes. I know I bought two different cans from the same company a couple of years apart, and you put one on top of the other, and the chemistry actually did the orange peel effect like you've experienced. So it's whatever changes they make from year to year to year in their chemistry when they're making it, the lacquers could react with each other.
I also think it's very likely, as one of your friends said, that in the warm weather with a breeze, fine bits of lacquer droplets dry before they hit the surface. Then they get sealed in by the next parts that come along, and that causes it to do something anyhow.
Kai, did you use the can just by pressing the black knob on top?
Yes, I did.
Have you because you started off by saying you weren't too happy with spraying, have you ever thought of buying the gun that goes on that can? Since I bought one from Chestnut, my spraying has increased infinitesimally. It's absolutely fantastic because you've got more control over your spray than just your finger on the top of the can.
I didn't know such a thing existed. Does anybody, is that available? Have you got a picture of it? You got it with you?
I'll go and get it, John.
All right.
And
we'll break in with it for you again when you come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
available on Amazon.
Yeah, they're Amazon about $5. They're a plastic. You can even 3D print one. They're absolutely, like Don says, they're absolutely indispensable because you could it's like pulling a trigger rather than holding your finger on it. It just makes the job so much easier, and they're like $5.
You guys.
So this appliance presses
what a tip.
The black nozzle. Then is that right?
The gizmo does it for you.
Yeah.
It's like holding a regular paint can with a handle, and you pull the trigger, and then the mechanism inside pushes the button down. So it's really easy to hold, and then you can swing like this and up and down and around without having to hold your finger down on it. It's and they're relatively inexpensive. They're just made out of plastic.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Are they using the same nozzle but just mechanically controlling it with a trigger?
Right. Here we are.
That's right. Yeah.
I see now. Yeah. That does have its own nozzle, doesn't it?
It has its own nozzle, but when you flip that on, when you pull the trigger, it comes down on that button, and you've got more control with the spray.
But it doesn't replace the existing nozzle on the can.
No.
I see.
Over here, we can buy them from Chestnut.
Well, it sounds like they're pretty common here. I was a dumb guy, didn't know about it.
Yeah, I'll have a look. Thank you for showing, Don.
I found it much easier because when you're spraying, it's just like if you were spraying an automobile with a proper gun and with a compressor and air, you've got that control of running, because when you're doing it with your finger, your finger tends to be, do I push it harder? Do I push it softer? Whereas this way you can control the pressure on the trigger.
And the surface has to be really clean. And lacquer will make an orange peel at the slightest provocation, is my experience with it.
We got the same one here, Don. Can gun.
Okay.
Hey, Kai, you said something interesting that somebody says to put it on thicker and let it run. My experience is the thinner the coat of lacquer, the better you are, especially that first coat.
Absolutely
I just
right.
barely touch the wood with the lacquer.
Yeah, it's best to put 3 or 4
Right.
thinner coats than one big coat and have it run. You're better off.
Very
dry.
thin.
The other thing you can
Very
do with lacquer, if you can get the piece on the lathe, even with a vacuum chuck, is thin the lacquer and wipe it on and wipe it off on the as your first coat. You can make
So
a
you're
really
not
good sealer
using
coat.
you're not using sanding sealer, you're just starting right with lacquer.
I'm starting with lacquer cut about 50%.
Is that what you're doing, Ken, too?
With a wiping lacquer, with the deft wiping lacquer or brushing lacquer. And that makes a very good you can turn the lathe up with your rag on that and be careful not to let it stick, and you can get that to set right away, and on you go with a first coat of good finish on the wood, in the wood.
It all depends what kind of piece I'm doing, whether or not I put lacquer sealer on. I bought some commercial lacquer sealer from Zinsser. I can't remember who it was, but if it's a good piece, I'll put that on first, very thin, just brush it on, wipe it on actually, and wipe it off. But with things like Christmas ornaments, snowmen, those kind of things, I just spray it on. But light coat, light coat, light coat.
Start over.
How do you guys handle overspray around the edges?
I just don't breathe it.
Well, behind it gets on everything. If you're putting it on the lathe, then you've got a chance of getting it on all the sides and everything else around the machine. So it's very difficult to restrict the lacquer cloud just to your machine.
It's called building a box over it. That was my comment. You guys talk about spraying lacquer outside. I would never do that. Too much chance of dirt and wind messing with you. I do that with shellac and stuff. But lacquer, I have a box over my lathe and a 6-inch exhaust fan, inline fan running. So
I do the wipe-on coat on the lathe as I go if I'm going to use lacquer, and then I have a very small spray hood that's about this big, and I put the piece in that on a little pedestal, and I spray it, dust aside, rotate the piece, dust aside, rotate the piece. That seems to work okay to get a good build-up.
So John, can you clarify? You're saying that you use a wipe-on that you've thinned up to 50% for your very first coat, and then all the subsequent coats are sprayed.
Yes, that works pretty good. At least I have found it to work pretty good. And that first coat can be a sanding sealer. If there's grain to raise, it'll raise it. And then you can tackle that and clean it up. One more sanding, one more, and off you go.
I wonder if you use lacquer thinner in the case of where you have a lot of orange peel and stuff, if it would dissolve it enough, the surface enough to make it smooth, wiping it like you were doing initially, John?
Usually makes it gummy.
Does it?
Got orange peel, it's going to get gummy. It's only going to get gummy from there.
Okay.
You make an awful mess.
Streaky too.
Thank you, George. I have a feeling lacquer is just a bad actor in my book.
Well, that's true because it does spot. You get it wet and it's going to spot. I mean, it just does, no matter what they say.
Plus, it tries to kill your lungs at the same time you're using it. So.
Yeah.
Do you always sand between coats of lacquer, or do you just spray one coat over the other?
Yeah.
One over the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
All depends whether or not. Go ahead, Carol.
For a smoother finish, you can sand or Scotch Brite between coats. You don't have to do it every coat. But...
Well, you sand the first coat.
How long do you wait before you Scotch Brite the surface? Do you have to let it dry overnight, or can you do it after an hour or
20 minutes, a half an hour?
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever the can says, double it.
Good advice.
No, I mean that. It'll. Yeah.
According to the can that I've got in my hand, it says, after application, touch dry in approximately 30 minutes and leave at least 24 hours to fully dry.
And if it
Yeah,
says
and when
that,
do you sand then? Touch dry or fully dry?
fully, fully.
If I was going to do any sanding, I would use the wet wax, and I use the yellow one.
Mm.
It will clog your paper if you do it while it's still gummy. So if you sand after, well, it's dry to the touch, you know, your paper clogs immediately, and and you got a mess.
But the wet wax,
So it should really be
doesn't clog.
dry on them.
I guess Toby's, I didn't check whether Toby's here today, but he uses that glossy, and I tried it, and I think that's a heck of a lot easier to deal with than lacquer. But then I hate the smell of lacquer, so.
I think
It
you're right.
depends on the project you're doing, Jim.
What's that, what?
It depends on the project you're doing. Some projects you may have to spray.
But he's spraying from a rattle can, but he's spraying an acrylic rather than another kind of lacquer, and that makes a finish that doesn't spot the same way as lacquer does. So you got to really pay attention to what you're actually spraying.
And I guess you have to decide whether you really want the glossy or not. I'm not a big fan of glossy.
Well,
so I start out feeling really against it to start with. So.
And that's a choice everybody makes.
What are you using as a polish, understanding that we would say finish and you say polish?
It's in this particular case, I used a spirit sanding sealer. I buffed that off, and then I used a Canubi wax with a buffing wheel.
What are you using for finishing as you go?
The finishing as I go is up to the buffing point, and then when it's finished, I then buff it. But up to the point of finishing as I go, I just put the sander sealer on and buff that off, and then I'd use the buffing wheel with the Canubi afterwards.
What's your routine for those situations, Ernie?
Very much the same. I use pure flake shellac in various colors, usually as blonde as I can get it. And then I simply crayon on, once I have the shellac on, I will buff it with a piece of paper towel, which will rip and not grab my fingers. And then polishing now mean brightening it up and smoothing it out. And it actually melts the shellac. You need about 1800 RPMs on most things to do that. And then I'd go to carnauba wax and crayon that on and polish it with paper. And that way I don't have to go to a buffer generally.
Yeah, I do the same thing on some projects, Ernie. It depends on the product that I want.
So I've got a question. Why do you use your shellac? Why not just go straight to a wax?
Is that to Ernie or to me, Bert?
Oh, so either one. It's just a question because I've started using just wax on a lot of these small projects, and I don't see any major difference, and it's quicker and easier, and I don't have to use shellac or sanding sealer.
Maybe because I've always done it that way. I've never tried another way.
I've been doing
Bert, are you using beeswax or carnauba wax?
Oh, actually, I'm using I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically like a Johnson Space Wax. The ones I'm using right now is an antique. It's a microcrystalline wax, commercially available. It's nothing special. It's got carnauba and whatever they put in it. It's just a can of wax, basically.
Yeah.
I think one good reason for shellac between the wood and the wax is shellac sticks to anything and anything sticks to shellac. So the bond for your wax is better, and I think it retains it better and it stays shinier for.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering, like the wood sucks up the wax when I put the wax on, and I burnish it in on the lathe, really, get it really good and warm, and it seems like the wood sucks it up, and then about an hour later, it's got a haze on it because the wax is whatever the the carriers are flash off and it leaves like a wax. It's just like on a car. And then you take that and rub it with a piece of paper towel and it's just like a car. It just polishes up and it's so simple. I was just curious. I just started doing that here probably in the last couple of months. And I'm just wondering if anybody else has just used straight wax on wood.
The only time I ever used wax on wood direct was on a piece of oak when I used Renaissance wax.
Wax never seems to me to persist, and if you get any water on it, it spots. So I don't like it that way. So I've been using Osmo and I like the result better. It feels the same way. And once you buff one coat on hard and then wipe on as many as you want to whatever shine you want. That's what I've been doing.
Now I use Osmo as well, and I love it. And I put it on exactly the same, but Osmo takes about 10 hours for that first coat to cure. But I mean, it's fine. But on some of these really small projects, when you're doing a lot of them, it takes 24 hours for it to dry. And instant gratification.
Well, if I buff that first coat on the lathe, wipe it on, let it sit a couple of minutes, go at it with a paper towel at a high speed, and I just carry on with the project. I know the Osmo hasn't fully set, but it doesn't matter. I'm just carrying and going on to the next to turn and finish the next surface in the sequence.
Well, I will say that this time was the very first time I've ever used a spirit sander sealer. I've always used cellulose, but this one was a small quarter-litre pot that was given to me to try. So I tried it on this particular project, and it's spirit sander sealer.
When you say spirit, do you mean like an alcohol base, or okay?
Alcohol
Spirit
base.
to you would be alcohol, not mineral spirits, which is more an oil-based thing. Yeah.
Doug, somebody's asking what finish you used.
Oh, they're just Beal polish. So I just polished them. There's no finish on them. That's
Wax?
just no wax.
No wax.
No
just
wax.
to the diamond wheel.
Just to the diamond.
Yeah.
So, and the reason for that was, again, I figured they need to be handled. They're going to be hidden. But I tell you, it really impresses that Beal polishing system when you go down to the diamond. It really, or aluminum oxide, it really impresses the hell out of people to realize how beautiful wood can be without any varnish whatsoever.
Yeah.
So.
It sounds like another opportunity for him to fly around the shop, though.
One or two did fall out of my hands, but it wasn't so much. Actually, these are actually a lot easier to hold than the Beal. Than a ball, because you can hold the inside like that when you're gripping it on the polishing wheel. So it's actually a whole lot easier to polish these than it is to polish a solid ball.
Yeah. You just have to be really careful, and you quickly find out what move not to make ever.
Yeah, exactly. You always make sure that if I take this and look at it, it's that your wheel is always going this direction. Because as soon as you turn it the opposite direction and catches that, you're right. It not only it'll also shatter the shell.
As soon as it catches the edge, you're done.
Yes, and I'll only say that I've heard that anyway.
Yes.
Granddaughter asked me to make her some mugs, wooden mugs, for an Easter gift to her parents and her grandmother. She wants to drink out of them. What would you guys put them? I seal them with Mahoney's, and I'm going to put tung oil in the inside, and I think she should be able to drink out of them, right?
I would use water locks.
Waterlux, really?
Yeah, I have, and I bet you Osmo would work. I haven't tried it though. I did a mug with Osmo that worked okay, but I didn't really test it all that hard.
Well, that was going to be my question today, and so I snuck it in here since it seemed to be a...
Well, use
Osmo because it's certified food safe for direct food contact, so I'll try Osmo.
I'm more concerned about the moisture aspect of it. The tung oil I would use is food safe. It's half and half from milk paint, but
Well, if you put on 4 or 5, wipe on and wipe off 4 or 5 coats of Osmo, it'll make a build that's basically like a waterlocks or a varnish, and it's very tough once it's set, but it will not fully set for a week or more.
Toby, does oak take dye or doesn't? I've never tried dyeing oak, plain oak.
I think I did another piece. Believe I showed on here, but I just put a faint coat of orangish dye on it. I believe it took the dye okay. I think it works out fine.
Oak works for what, liming or gold paste or something, because you add a little, it sticks in the pores, right? I mean, I think I remember the last one I turned was like that.
Yeah, that's what's up with oak. It has fantastic pores if you're trying to emphasize the pores.
Yeah, oak and ash are good for that. Yeah.
I think that's what you're seeing in the lines on here are the pores being cut through, I suspect. Yeah. Okay.
The what doesn't work well for dyeing, Jim, is at least in my experience, is black locust. It's too dense the whole way through. There's not any variation. So when you dye it, it just makes the whole thing. It's like you put a filter in front of your lens. It doesn't really add to the piece at all, in my opinion.
You work best in your dyeing work with imperfect wood, right? I mean, wood that's either spalting or got gaps in it or whatever.
Some kind of figure.
Well, burl obviously makes a really, burl is a really good choice for you. So yeah.
Had this chunk of walnut sitting on the lathe that Gerald had given me, and so I made this. It's almost like a piece of crockery. I think it's a lidded pot, and the bottom is walnut, and then the dabbled iridescent paint, a gold, and then a turquoise on top of the gold. Well, the gold is still kind of wet. And the top, I don't know what kind of wood that is. I know that it's extremely heavy, and it really cut well, but I don't know what it is. And let's see.
Go back to that green and gold band. Now, how'd you make that?
Oh, that is Josonia's iridescent paint. And instead of blown around with an air gun the way I usually do, I just dabbled it with a piece of kitchen paper towel.
No, what's the order of events though? When did you put that on, and how did you get such a clean edge?
Oh, the clean edge was the absolute last thing I did. And the reason it has a clean edge is I took pictures of it, and when I looked at it, I thought, look at that, the ragged edge. So I make stuff so I can put it back on the lathe, and I did. And I just used my favorite parting tool and just cleaned the edge, top and bottom. And it looks, somebody on Facebook said it looked like a pearl inlay. And how did you do it? And I told him I'd tell him Sunday in church, but it's just paint, it's a cheap trick, but it gets extremely hard. And then I spray it with the what is it? The stuff that most people use in a rattle can.
Spray acrylic, spray lacquer.
What is it? It's a spray lacquer. Yeah.
Ambrosia maple.
And how did you do that rim?
It was a process where we used black jessup and covered when you turn it, you leave the whole thing flat. And then we painted with black gesso the whole top, put 2 coats on it. Came back with iridescent acrylic and took paintbrushes and just put little dots of about 3 or 4 different colors all over it. then took a piece of saran wrap, plastic wrap, wadded it up, and then just spread it out with the plastic wrap. And then a couple of coats of lacquer to seal that. And then came back and then turned the bowl in the ring.
Oh, okay, so the bowl isn't turned when you're doing the rim.
That's correct.
I was going to ask you how you got such a clean edge there. Now that makes sense.
Jim,
Yes, Don.
I've got another piece in my hand.
I'm going to highlight you. There you go. I love it. Now, how did you do that, Don?
You were saying you don't want to spend hours doing it. This took me about 10 minutes on each side with a Dremel.
What were you using?
A Dremel.
Nah, that would take you an hour.
No, you just got it on your lathe, and with your Dremel, you just do with your Dremel, you know. Where are we?
Don, I think you're absolutely right. It takes you 10 minutes. But the fact that you don't mention is it took you 30 years of practicing, so it took you 10 minutes.
Oh, geez.
Quite right, Doug. But I did the back and then the front. It was just a plain piece of sycamore.
And what kind of burr? What kind of burr did you have on your Dremel, Don?
It was a ball. Yeah, a ball cutter.
Okay.
A saber tooth, a saber tool.
Yeah, it was. I said a book. No, it was a. Yeah.
Okay.
It was at the end of a pen.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
And
did you paint that black before you went at it with the Dremel tool?
Yeah, sprayed it black. Did this engraving. Sorry. Yeah. Again. Yes. Did it black. Engraved it. Sprayed that black. Rubbed it down again slightly. And then sprayed it with the type of turquoise blue, which shows up.
Yep, it's beautiful. Now, Don, the very edge, I turned it flat toward the camera. I want to see the edge of, yeah. So you left that white. Did you sand that intentionally back, or did it just not get done?
No, I didn't paint it.
Ah.
Left it as that. But on this side, when I'd done that, I then put a ridge in here so that it took away any excess paint from the base. I did. So on the front, I did all of that first before I turned the bowl.
What are they textured up and down, or
yeah? I can get you some.
Well, it looks like pyrography, I'm betting, with the duck's eye things or something like that.
Yes, I mean the pyrography takes a long time. It's here are some pictures of it. After I've just dropped it, better to show you the pictures, I guess.
There's a lot of airbrushing.
I'll bring you in. This is all done with the pyrography took about 3 or 4 hours in the background layer. The colouring is done with paintbrushes and spirit stains. And what I like about using the spirit stains is building up that colour that's, you know, got washes of colour. It's got depth. It's got movement in it. So it actually started off as yellow and blue, but I kept working into the yellow. And I like having the different layers. I'll get you a picture of got a few pictures of the whole thing. There we go. So you can sort of see it. And this is something that I've made for a Wizardry in Wood, an event that happens in the UK every 4 years. I was invited to put something in, and I thought my normal run of wide-rimmed things needed a bit more, needed to be a bit better than that.
When you
I've
said you
done a,
hadn't finished with the bottom, what's going to happen to the bottom that you haven't
yeah, the
done?
bottom will have pyrography around the holes, and then it will move into it'll have a band of orange and a band of blue, and then the base of the bowl part will be pyrographed with texture on to kind of reflect the different levels that I've got on the top surface.
You
But
won't be going back on the lathe with this, though.
No. The scariest thing was putting this blue rim. It had I'd coloured it black and it didn't look good at all. The surface wasn't great. I had to put it back on the lathe just to turn that after I'd done all of the colouring and the pyrography on it, and that was a little bit, you know,
What
heart
did
in
you
mouth
do? How did
moment.
you hold it? Did you make a jam chuck, or what did you do?
No, because the back has got some grooves in it. I was able to grip it on those grooves, and so I put it in a chuck. I wanted to be really sure that it was secure, and then it was sort of slow turning, and then once that was done, it was like, phew, breathe a sigh of relief. I've done something similar that I'm going to bring to the AAW symposium. But this one doesn't have any piercing on it. I mean, the amount of time that took as well, and the shaping of it was a bit too much. But I can show you the sort of the color build up and how it starts with, you know, looking quite plain when you get a bit of color on. But I think it definitely gains from having more color.
Well, do you
works onto the
work
surface.
this out on scrap first, or how do you manage doing this? I mean, you've got the yellow color on. Do you then have a test palette for the orange, or are you just going right to it on the piece?
I just go right to it. Sort of cut. I do the cutting by eye. Sort of have a rough idea of what I want to do, and then sort of go to it.
All right, I did one of these Ikebana projects that Toby had. I don't know if you can see that. The design, what I did, I recessed the top in there. You can see a little seat, but I wanted the lip or the top of this just to stay a little proud, the metal just to stay up. But this piece is I found it. It was like a 6x6x2 block. It's Brazilian tulip wood, and it was very interesting to turn. It was very hard, dense, and reading up on it, you don't really need to. You don't put a finish on it, so I finished it going through all the grits up to 800, and then I buffed it, and it really turned out. It really turned out nice. I mean, I think it'll work for what they want.
We're talking about red oak. I found a piece in my backyard of a limb, and I was moving it around and realized it was not rotten and I could salvage it. So the target of opportunity. So I turned some Richard Reffin style pots. These are cross grain. So here's the pith coming through it. This one is finished with Minwex antique oil.
Wait a minute, where was the pith in that? I couldn't quite get it.
It's coming through here
Inside.
sideways.
Okay.
There's the pith. The other one I played with ebonizing, and what I found, if you're going to do any ebonizing, forget the idea of using steel wool. Go over to your grinder with a magnet, especially if you've got CBN wheels, and collect all that dust, that metal dust, and boy, it turns into ebonizing solution in vinegar almost instantly. And
What's the deal? You put the dust in vinegar?
Yes. I mean, traditionally people put nuts and bolts and steel wool. Steel wool, if it's new, it's got oil in it. You got to wash it out in the hot water. You know, but that powder from your grinder, it doesn't take a whole lot, and the vinegar works on it instantly. And the last one I
What
made,
did you do to the inside, Mike?
I used the same ebonizing solution. I just didn't. The beauty of ebonizing is you don't have to get as hung up on the inside of sanding. So it's pretty rough, but it's not a functional piece anyway, so it doesn't matter. Then the last one I did, definitely a Richard Raffin style, was using metal reactive paint. And the first one was bronze, and it didn't react well. So I did some brass highlights and put some brass around the rings and touched it a few places with a sea sponge. And then you hit it with a spritzer and it starts, reacting. And there's no extra finish I'll put on this. On the inside, it's just red acrylic paint. And it turns out red and green are complementary colors. You wouldn't think that'd be an interesting combination, but the red inside works well.
I turned this pot, Richard Raffin style, and it uses a metallic effects finish that you coat it, let it dry, you coat it again, and then you spritz it with something that causes the little metal particles in the finish to oxidize and become a patina. This one is iron. This one is verdigris. I turned this one some time back. And then Richard Raffin style, I did the inside it with red, which I really like. It's kind of different. I wouldn't have thought I would have liked it, but after seeing his, I really like it.
Okay, can we maybe see the bottom and inside and around again? And I'd like to know more about
this one. I went ahead and coated. This one I left natural, so people could, if they insisted it wasn't wood, they could verify that it was wood.
So what is the finished process on that? A little more detail on that?
Modern Masters is the name of the company that is the most popular. It used to be Verde. Mine is like 10 years old, or maybe older than that. So it's beginning to, I don't know, about to run out. But you put a coat on there. Actually, they tell you to seal it first with something. I don't bother to seal it because I don't find that I have any bleed through from the wood through the finish. You let it dry, then you put another coat on it, and while it's still wet, you spray this reactive spray on it, which causes the metal in it. And let me show you a sample board. Here's a sample board. There's 4 different finishes. There's bronze, copper, brass, and iron.
Now, is it like a paint, thick, or what is it?
Yeah,
how does it go on?
It's kind of like an acrylic. It's heavy. It probably is acrylic.
And you put it on. How do you put it on with?
A brush. And then when you spritz this stuff on it, you could use a sea sponge, or you could just spray it, or you could dab it with something else, depending on what kind of effect you want. If you want to highlight this area, you might use a brush with that spritzing stuff to make sure you get it inside the grooves. This one, I just spritzed it, and then later I came back, I think, with a sea sponge and dabbed it in a few places.
Is it inside the vessel as well?
No, the inside is just a red acrylic paint.
And
you don't have to sand it.
You don't have to. How durable is that finish?
Well, it's not a utility item, so I mean, you can handle it. You can pick it up, put it on a shelf. It's good enough. I don't put anything on top of it.
Would you rather it look like rusted metal, or rather it look like wood? Now that you've made a couple of them, how's it? Where are you on that?
I like both. I've done a number of pots with different woods, and they look very nice. I've used burl and green wood but this is kind of a unique finish. I've used this kind of finish on some of those lantern ornaments that Bert and I both did videos on, and they look very nice because you can make them look like an old lantern with this type of finish. It's not something I would eat out of. This one, interestingly enough, was turned green out of hickory out of my backyard, and it was cracking pretty badly the first 2-3 days. I put it in a bag, And I thought, well, I wonder what's going to happen to that. And it cracked near the pith because this is turned cross grain with the pith coming through it. Richard likes that because it causes it to deform, and you can put it in a microwave and nuke it for a while, go through that process, and that causes some quick drying and quick deformation. But I put it back in the bag for a few days, and it's sealed up. And then, of course, with this finish on it, it would hide any little lines, because it has kind of a rough iron looking finish to it, so you don't have to sand it inside or out. The inside just acrylic paint.
Mike, does that give a sort of a surprise factor for people, because it may look like whatever, but when you pick it up, it's a lot lighter?
I gave one of the lanterns to my sister. She took it to her bridge or mahjong group, and several of the ladies in it just insisted that it was ceramic or something. They just would not. They refused to believe it was made out of wood.
On your sample board, you got, Mike. Which one is which? Like there's colors across the bottom and across the top. Which one is which?
I've got it marked here. Okay. Bronze.
Hold it up a little higher.
Yeah. This one is. Let's see, where am I starting with? This is bronze. This is, it says B2. I don't know exactly what that is. One of them is, no, I'm sorry. This one's brass. This one's bronze. This one is copper, and this is iron.
Which one is which? Like you got the top layer and the bottom layer.
They're both, they mirror each other. One's with the one's on top is with the spritzer after I've.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So the green verdigris looks pretty much the same on these three, but the underlying color that shows, between it, depending on how much you have on there, is going to give you a different color.
Did you do the bottom of your box too, or did you leave it right?
I did one I did and one I didn't. I think going forward, I would leave the bottom natural wood, just so it's a surprise when people turn it over. It's obvious that it's wood.
Would it survive outdoors, do you think?
What's that?
Would the finish survive outdoors?
I think it would. The company that makes this stuff, it's not just for little wood art objects. You can put that copper verdigris on gutters and larger outdoor items. Yeah. So I think it would survive as long as you sealed underneath it, so it wouldn't, the water wouldn't penetrate through it to the wood or whatever the underlying item was. I think it probably would hold up pretty well.
So the type of wood doesn't really matter.
It's going to be covered.
It covers it up.
Yeah, it covers it up completely. Like I say, you don't even bother to sand it because it goes on really thick, and you're going to have two coats on it, so it's going to have kind of a rough acrylic kind of finish to it, and the metal particles in it, add to that kind of roughness. It's not going to be smooth. Now, I suppose you could spray it with acrylic or use wipe-on poly or something and make it shiny, but I think that kind of defeats the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish.
I finished up a live edge, which I thought had some unusual spalting in it.
That's for sure. That's a beautiful piece of wood.
It's hickory. But I thought it turned out really nice with the spalting in it.
I'll say it certainly did.
And there's no finish on this. I use the Yorkshire abrasive paste to get.
What do you mean what is that? Yorkshire abrasive paste?
They have a microfine and a regular, and I started as just apply it with a paper towel while it's spinning, and then buff it off.
And what does it do? Does it fill the pores and leave a kind of a glow?
It does, but it's an oil base or wax base or mineral oil with abrasive in it. You can get it. I think Amazon has it now. I think I got this at Rockler. But
It's a nice soft finish. It looks to like a nice soft, friendly finish.
it is. It turned out real nice, I thought.
I'm listening to a book tape a book that's been written by Adam Savage, the guy from Mythbusters, and he was talking about maker spaces and everything like that. And he was saying that what he thought was one of the best fixatives for CA glue was baking powder, or it was either baking powder or baking soda. I was wondering if anybody in this group had any experience with that.
It's baking soda. You can do build up with CA glue if you want to build up like you were welding almost.
Does it work really? I mean, does it work really well? You just throw the powder on? What do you do? Just
cornstarch is very effective.
Cornstarch works as well, does it?
Cornstarch is very effective to expand on CA and baking powder. I never heard of using baking soda.
I was just trying to remember. So it's baking powder that is whatever. But yeah, okay. So do you just powder it on, or take a shaker of it, or throw dust in the air around your turning when it's running?
If it's a gap, you should pack it first, because it does react very quickly. So if you put down if you try and mix it with the CA, it'll go off right away before you have a chance to apply it.
So you backfill it.
If you use thick CA, you have a few seconds to work it.
So what do? You
mix it into a paste hurriedly.
Dust it with cornstarch.
What was that?
My experience with that is you take the baking soda and pack it in the hole really, really nice and tight, and hit it with thin CA, but make damn sure you're not standing over it, because the smoke that comes off is very, very aggressive, but it gets hard. It's like concrete once it sets, and it's almost instantaneous.
What's the smoke like when you're comparing that to the smell of the fixative they sell you in a bottle?
About the same. It's really aggressive.
And it stinks like all get out. Okay, so because
it's dangerous too. It'll actually burn your nostrils. It's dangerous stuff. Make sure when you're working with CA, you make damn sure you're careful. You have crosswind, because it's dangerous stuff. It'll glue your stuff together. So be really careful.
Yeah, well, I've done that before, and I've been using CA as I tried using CA for pens, surface of pens, and I've always been like frustrated at how long it takes to dry and all that sort of stuff, because you want to put 10 coats on, and and then there's problems with getting nubbly and everything like that. So I was just wondering. Thank you very much. That's all I had, John.
No, I think there's more to say here. Michael, you got some experience with this?
Yeah, I found that if it's a very deep build up, I do it in layers.
Say more.
I'll pack in a little bit, add some CA glue, and pack in some more, let it set, then pack in some more.
So and
add some more CA glue.
You're packing in baking powder or baking soda or cornstarch?
Yes. I've done cornstarch as well as the baking.
And then you can use thin CA on that, couldn't you? It would still set up like a rock.
Yeah.
Huh. Somebody else has a thing in the chat. Robertson, let me see, where is he on here? Can't find him.
Yeah, I've used baking soda a lot. It works very well. I just fill the gap with the baking soda, and then I use Parfix 3408 as the CA.
I have to try this. This is interesting. Because I have the same problem. I'm putting this, filling the holes between pack magnets to be held into my little magnet boxes. And I'm putting in, thin CA and then medium CA and squirting it with the hardener, the accelerator in between and multiple applications, and it's a mess. So it seems to me what you're telling me is I could put baking powder in there and then add a few drops of CA and boom, it's gone.
That's correct.
Huh.
Well, that sounds like an ideal solution for you, John.
Yeah, the solution I was heading toward was trying UV cure, but that's a real pain in the butt. I got a UV light and everything, and that's not the way I'm going to go at all. But I'm still unclear. Are we talking baking soda or baking powder, and does it make any difference?
I
Doesn't
haven't
make any
used baking
difference.
powder, but I've used a lot of baking soda, and it works.
Baking soda and baking powder are basically the same thing. Baking powder it's basically baking soda with a couple of different additives, so it acts exactly the same.
So baking soda is the simpler ingredient.
Yeah, it's cheaper too.
What is it actually?
Sodium bicarbonate.
Okay, so now, does that react with the glue, or does that become a matrix with the glue? The glue in that form a matrix, or is that actually a new chemical reaction with the CA glue? Nobody knows.
I've also had success using black ground coffee grounds
Aha!
for dark holes.
Espresso grind, I guess.
Michael, I keep a little medicine pill box full of that in my shop for exactly that. And also, I went to a key maker and got a little collection of brass grindings from their key making machine. Those are two handy things to fill stuff with.
You're making me think I could use filings from the grinding dust and pack that in there and add CA glue.
I'm sure you could, but be careful when you turn it then, because, yeah. No, you're right.
I'm going to
John,
at the hardware store looked at me funny when I asked them for the grindings. I said, "Don't worry, I need it for my."
I think you're talking about two different reactions here, John. Valid question. I think one of them's the sodium baking soda is a chemical reaction with the CA glue, whereas when you put in the grindings, you're putting in a huge surface area, and as soon as you thin out that CA glue, it just sticks to any surface area. So having a huge surface area just fills the volume. So I'm not sure anyway, but that's just my hypothesis.
I think you're right, and I think I need to do some testing of this one. This sounds like a very interesting afternoon coming on.
John, and Starbond makes a bunch of different colors like light tan, or dark brown and black. So you could find them very effective to drop some on your.
I've experimented with them. I don't like them.
Oh, okay.
Partly they're all medium, and I want thin. I need thin.
I got something here from Reddit. It says the baking soda acts as a polymerization accelerant because it has extra electrons to give to the electron poor CA molecules. And let's see, it was neutralizes the acid stabilizers that keep the glue liquid. And that's why it increases the rapidity of it setting up.
So the strategy is to put the powder in the hole or in whatever the crack you're trying to fill, and then add the glue. Is that, am I understanding this right? And don't breathe the fumes. But you get a lot of heat from that, I expect, too.
Stand back and turn your exhaust fan on because it smoked like you know what. So.
Yeah. This is very, very interesting. Anybody else with special information on this? That's great.
I've heard of using the baking soda or baking powder, and I've mixed it with water and used that as a cheap accelerant for drying the CA glue. The only problem with that is that it leaves a white residue. Also, from my neighbor, the puppeteer, who's been building puppets for 30, 40 years and has an incredible amount of experience with all sorts of different kinds of glues and all sorts of stuff. And he's told me about mixing cornstarch with epoxies to thicken it up. And I have
some cornstarch out in my shop also for that purpose, and I imagine you can mix it with the CA glue and it'd be very well as well.
But I think that's the opposite thing. With the cornstarch, you're making a matrix, and with the baking powder, you're actually creating a chemical reaction. Two different things. I'm guessing. All right.
One of the questions I'm raising for this is because the thing I heard was that it didn't have any smell, and so I'm wondering if baking powder versus baking soda has a different reaction with the vapors that come off because of the different chemical composition as well. Anyway, that's something I'm going to experiment with myself, I guess.
Well, the no odor was the Parfix 3408, which is a medical grade CA. It does not produce the smell when it you hit it with activator.
Now, where do you get that?
Parsons adhesive.
Yeah.
You've had it on this forum several times.
Okay.
You can get it at your local CVS too if you want.
Really?
It's called liquid bandage.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it cheaper than Star?
I don't know. I just know they call it's liquid bandage. It's CA glue is what it is.
One last comment, guys. I've been told that the fumes coming off are cyanide, like they don't think gas chamber, and if you smell them, it bites. It really bites.
Yeah.
And the chemical name itself was alpha cyanacrylate, something I've forgotten, but I don't know that that's true, but it's something to think about.
I just know that you don't want to breathe those fumes.
No. The comment about using it as a bandage, that's one of the things it was actually developed for was a medic's kit, and you'd pull skin together, put CA on, and better than stitching, or at least get them to the hospital. So.
Well, I find that too. Every time I use CA, I usually wind up with some fingers stuck together.
Yeah.
Not by design either.
For field medication during the Second World War is when it was developed.
Wow.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. Another great topic.
I'd always heard it was actually the Vietnam War.
It started in 1942 and it was developed for gun sights, but it carried over.
Doctors have warned, though, only use the CA that's actually made for it because the heat generated by the other ones can damage more tissue than it fixes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's for sure. Wow, that's a great conversation.
Yeah, this one I've been working on. And Don, you took me down a bit of a rabbit hole. You suggested treating the inside of this. I think I showed the rough cut before, and I had it painted black, or no, I didn't. I forget what I had. And you said, why don't you put some iridescent paint in there? I'd never painted with iridescent before. Now, this bowl bottom was pretty rugged because I had cut through to a knot, but I wasn't going to throw this piece away. And so it's not as smooth as I would like. But it was an interesting adventure. I was surprised how pasty, if I can use that word, the iridescence I bought was, but I was delighted with the secondary sheen. I hadn't expected that. For example, the upper flat edge, I painted with black. Now, I didn't realize it was so thick, and you're supposed to use what they call a dry brush to paint it, at least the stuff I was using. You can dilute it, but it's not very opaque anymore when you dilute it. These are my first time beginner stuff. I made first time ever, I made 2 blanks of junk wood or whatever and did some painting tests on it. and that gave me a little bit of a direction on it.
Good for you.
Normally, I put the wood on the lathe and I turn a piece. I look at it and I say that's going to be the final thing. But now that I'm doing this embellishment stuff, I'm not enough of an artist to know when I put the brush to the canvas, or in this case, the bowl, what I'm going to get. And so even this, I'm not totally sure I did well, but it was interesting. The other one is, what's the difference between metallic and iridescent? The same company that makes this, I bought it from Amazon, Abrasives or something. They have a metallic. What would I experience differently painting with metallic?
When my approach to color is to recognize that nature never has a single color. Grass is not green. It's green and yellow and brown. And once you realize that, as you think about your wood turning, if you create a surface that has highs and lows, you've given yourself the ability to have two different colors, because you put the first color in and it goes over the whole thing, and then you come back, put a second color on, but you wipe it off or remove it in some manner, shape, or form, and you end up with all the highs being one color and all the lows being the second color.
I mean, you're absolutely right, because there's two ways to blend colors. Like if using dye, you could paint over them, or use alcohol to wipe them on your piece, or you could use mix them in a little container to the color you want. That would be a different experience.
If you look at this piece, I mean, it's doing the same thing. It's multiple colors, only this is the Toby's dye approach. So it's dyed and then cut back and then dyed with a black and then blue. And so you end up with, I don't know how well that's showing up on camera, but it ends up with two different colors. So once again, it's the same concept, is nature never has a single color.
Now, does that have another finish over top of that, or is there like a varnish or a lacquer, or?
No, it's about a dozen coats of wipe-on polyurethane to get the sheen. This doesn't show up real well on the camera.
It shows up that it has a deep sheen, and I'm wondering if that's on top of after you've done the color work.
It's after I've done the color work on that particular piece. But if I go to this piece, what I'm doing here is, again, I've textured the piece, and I have used a black milk paint. But what happens with cherry and the milk paint is the lime in the milk paint activates this beautiful patina in the cherry. So it may not show up well here, but what I'm seeing is a red with black. So all the high spots where the black has been abraded off shows the natural cherry red patina, where all the low spots are black, and then if you want to get a little fancy with it, you put a few buttons on it, but that's neither here nor there. So if you think about color, you've got to make a big decision about which path do you want to walk. And if you try to jump around, you're going to get awfully confused.
And the other thing about color, Dennis, is it depends on the light you're showing it in, literally. So, hey, I have one more quick, just to show you guys what this, quick share. I just want to show you guys the profile of this thing. So that's the piece. I just want you to see what it really looked like.
That's a good piece.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.